Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the WR podcast. I'm Joey.
I'm Tommy.
And I'm Pops.
And we have our guest this week, JMO, Jesse Morris. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate you having me on.
Oh, thank you for actually wanting to do it, for sure. Um, uh, Currently,
Yeah.
you are you're an agent and a producer for OVW.
That is correct. Absolutely.
Um, and I just want to ask, when it comes to wrestling, you were also a former wrestler, right?
That is correct. That is correct.
Um, Growing up, were you a wrestling fan?
Oddly enough, I was not a wrestling fan growing up. I mean, I was. I mean, obviously, I grew up in the 90s, so obviously I'm a Stone Cold fan. I'm a Rock fan. I was around during the Attitude Era. So, the teenage boy in me obviously was attracted to all the spontaneous stuff that we got to experience growing up in the wrestling business. So, obviously, that aspect of it. But as far as being into wrestling, like, oh, I'm going to do that someday, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Awesome. Growing up, Stone Cold fan, obviously. Who else were you a fan of growing up and watching wrestling?
Well, actually, watching wrestling growing up as a kid, my all-time favorite was Mr. Perfect. I loved Mr. Perfect. Absolutely, one of the smartest minds, in my opinion, to ever lace the boots. So I was a huge Mr. Perfect fan. And then obviously, as time went on, I had the Hulkamania. Don't get me wrong, we all did. They can lie all they want. We were all there. We were all eating our Flintstone vitamins because it was just the nature of the beast. It was the machine that was fueling it, and we all stepped right into it.
Mostly everybody did during that era, for sure. Um,
Absolutely.
you know, when you seen the business change from that more cartoony to a more uh, adult oriented attitude era, how'd you
Mhm.
feel about that change, though?
Well, the thing is like at that time, it was something that was cool. It was something that was, oh my gosh, this is edgy. This is in today's society, it's like, no big deal that they're out there doing what they're doing. Like at that time, it had never been done before. You've never seen anything like that on television. Oh my gosh, I can't believe she's smacking him. I can't believe they're doing this. I can't believe they're mud wrestling on national television. So you had those aspects, of course, at that time, like you said, it went from the cartoon PG-13, earthquake to what we got during the Attitude Era, which at that time was shocking and renovating, and that's what sucked us all into it.
Absolutely. Now, what age did you maybe want to progress to actually want to do wrestling?
Right. So here's the story that led me into the wrestling business. And you guys may be familiar with this name because I know you guys have been around OVW. I've seen some of your stuff. I've seen some of your posts and things. And are you familiar with Jack Black?
Yes.
He was
Yes.
in bowling services. Well, Jack Black is like a brother to me. So I've known Jack my whole life. I've known Jack way before there was ever a Jack Black. I've grown up. I grew up knowing Jack, and actually we worked together at Central State Hospital back in 1999. I was 19 years old when I first got my job. My dad had worked at Central State Hospital for years and years and years, and around 2020, I ended up working directly with Jack. We were what was considered MHTs, which stood for mental health technicians, which basically is a glorified word for a babysitter. That's actually what we were. We were there to stop the patients from getting out of control. And if they did, we went in to help subdue them so the nurses could give them meds and things along those nature. But we became really close. We hit it off right away. We became really close. And from that point on, it was aggression. But my dad, who had worked at Central State at that time for about 25 years, was kind of like not necessarily a kingpin per se, but he was well known around the hospital, within all the departments, with all the management and such. And he had found out that me and Jack were getting close. Well, before I knew, my dad was diagnosed with renal cancer in his kidneys, and he had went to Jack because he knew Jack was one of my closest friends, and told Jack what was going on. And at that time, Jack had given my dad his word that he would do whatever it took to take care of me for the rest of my life. And at that point, Jack was in training at OVW. That was back at the Nightmare School with Danny Davis. They were over there at Mechanic Street in Indiana. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Mechanic Street.
Oh, yeah.
And so what I did is as one of my closest friends, I started hanging out with him. I got the pleasure to hang out with John Cena. I got the pleasure to hang out with Batista and Randy Orton and all these guys before they were ever who they are now. I could tell you a story about one time over at Cherry Run Golf Course where we accidentally ran, I wouldn't say accidentally, but a golf cart got ran into a little creek and we got kicked off the golf course, and that was a lot of fun. But I started hanging out with these guys. I started, and then once you're around it, there's something about this business that just draws you in. And it's hard to be around people that dedicate their lives to it without being sucked into it. And that's actually what happened with me. And before you know it, I was training, and I ended up training with a lot of the OVW guys. So some of our head trainers you probably know directly, Johnny Spade, Smooth Johnny Spade was one of our trainers. Dynamite Derek was one of our trainers. A lot of the OVW guys, because we were in that transition period after 2000 into 2001, and I didn't actually seriously start training until around 2002. WWE had kind of already pulled out. We really didn't have a lead trainer at that time, so it was just kind of everybody kind of keep the flow going, right? And so that's actually how I started training. And when I say these guys beat the shit out of us, There were several times I was like, you know what? I don't think I want to do this no more. This is the most stupidest idea I've ever had in my life. But it taught you a lot of respect. The business was a lot different back then. You had to earn everything you got. I got the privilege to set the ring up. I got the privilege to work security. And by doing that, it was to get the shit beat out of me. That's what that was my reward for my nice hard work. And so before you know it, I was training 2-3 times a week. We ended up training for back then it was 16 weeks. And then after that 16-week period, you kind of advance to a mid-level class, and then you advance to an advanced class. So overall, it was about 1.5 years worth of training before I even got my first match. And when I say I got my first match, I wouldn't consider it that. I just went out there and listened to the guy and got the shit beat out of me. It was a lot of fun, let me tell you. But that's a lot of how the business has changed today. Back then, you didn't just jump into a ring and start wrestling. A, you had to prove you wanted to be there. B, you had to earn it. C, you had to show that you had the balls to stick around long enough to even get the privilege to call yourself a wrestler. And so not that the kids today and the guys and the women that do it today haven't earned their spot. I'm not saying that at all. But times have changed as far as the training aspect of the business.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's the thing. Like, that's the first thing people always say to young guys that are just starting out. When you're with veterans, close your mouth and listen.
I still do that to this day. And I'm an agent at OVW, and so I'm in charge a lot of times with directing the matches and stuff. But even to this day, when we're in our booking meetings and stuff, I sit until it's my time to speak. And when it's my turn to speak, that's when I do my talking. To this day, if I go into a locker room that I'm not in charge of, I will sit down and I will only speak when I'm spoken to, because that's how we were trained. So yeah, absolutely.
Hey, Pops, you were going to say something. What were you going to say?
Yeah. So you was on the bottom end, putting up the ring and everything to get the experience inside that ring.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's how it was done. That's how it was done. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That is.
And from then, obviously, after I got through with my training and stuff, moved on, started wrestling. I started wrestling full time about 2004. Kind of wrestled all over, a lot in Southern Indiana, a lot in West Virginia, a lot in Kentucky. USWA wrestling. I've done so much. It's ridiculous. I was the manager. Are you guys familiar with HNIC? Apollo and JB Thunder. I was there. I was their manager for a while. I was their butler.
Yep.
And so we went into McKinney, Kentucky, and this was a nice. And I don't know if you guys were ever had the privilege of hearing about McKinney, Kentucky, but the old McKinney Gym was one of the best places the business has ever seen. This town literally shut down for wrestling once a month. I mean, we'd put 400 or 500 people in there every month. You could standing room only. It was great. So we're in this nice little redneck town, nice southern heat. You could literally go out there and call them stupid, and they want to cut you. Like, it was great, nice southern heat. And at this time, you're talking 2004, 2005. Times were different back then. I was their manager, dressed up in a tuxedo with a wine bottle and a serving glass. And I'd go out there with these guys, and they would down dress me. They would make me do stuff. They would make me shine their boots up. It was crazy, the heat that we got off of it. And then we led to a big feud with X, which is Jimmy. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with Jimmy or not, but he wrestled as X, and he was like the hero, of the town. We ended up hanging him with a noose over the rope during the main event of one of the shows, and the sheriffs literally had to escort us out of town. It was crazy.
And see, that's the thing. That's called getting.
I'm glad that you.
A lot of people don't understand getting heat anymore. Sometimes.
Not at all.
Yeah,
not at all.
That's exactly what I was about to say. I mean, we talk with a lot of YouTubers, that think they know wrestling and everything like that. They don't even know what getting heat is.
I tell you,
it's not concerned to them, but in the business of wrestling, you've got to learn to get the heat.
I owe so much of how I learned how to be a heel in this business from Jason Garvin. Apollo is his wrestling name. If you guys are familiar with him, he taught me so much on how to work a crowd and how to be a heel. To this day, some of the best experience I have was actually standing on the ringside watching this man work. He's definitely very underappreciated for all he does and all he knows in this business.
Wow.
In my day of OVW that I loved so much, my guy was Rip Rogers.
Oh yeah, yeah. Rip was around. Rip was around when we were training.
Yeah. Very, very clue to the business.
Mm-hmm.
Knew what he was doing,
especially when it comes to selling. Oh, that's a man can get you some heat right there.
Oh yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. Oh my God. My wife babysitted. Went to school with him in a way. And he would give us the tickets if he's going to be in our area. So we go see him and everything. I remember one time that is doing it in Seymour, Indiana, at the high school in Seymour. He was there. He brought in Cactus Jack, and
oh, nice.
And Cactus Jack, he always brings two kids up, to do the little bang bang thing. And Rip Rogers said Jack said, see those two little boys back there sitting right up there? I want you to bring them to the ring. It ended up to be the two you're talking to right now.
Yeah.
Wow. Nice. I love it. Nice. That's good stuff.
And you always remember,
Mick's a good guy. Mick's a really good guy. He really is.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, you will always when you're a little kid, you always remember the stuff about wrestling back in the day. Like, I remember doing that, and it was a big chore for me as a kid.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And speaking of that, stuff that you remember. So some of the things that with the business changing and stuff, it was a dog eat dog world back in the day. Like, it just was. And OVW is no different than any other promotion that was out there that was trying to, make a name for themselves and had a little steam behind them. It was a dog eat dog world. And a lot of people treated the younger guys like shit. They did. That's just the way it was. If you weren't on the top, you were beneath them. And early on, I learned so much from Rico Constantino. I don't know if you guys know Rico or not.
Oh, yeah.
Love the guy to death. Love him.
Yeah, sure did.
He treated us with respect. He was always willing to listen, always willing to give us advice, always willing to talk to us, always made us feel welcome. Hands down, one of the best human beings that I was a part of that time around the locker room and stuff, when some didn't even have the time to even look our way. And he always made sure we were welcome and always made us feel right at home with everybody else. Rico, hands down, one of the finest guys too.
And see, a lot of people's like, oh, I remember Rico. Ain't that the hairstylist from WWE and stuff? I was like, yeah, but you didn't really see how great of a worker he was.
Oh, he was a great worker. Very smart.
Gosh. Like,
absolutely.
I don't know if
he's a
anybody
former American
realizes
gladiator
right
and everything. Like, he is great. Great talent.
Yes, say there, Pops.
Me, I know OVW stars strive to get to WWE, but to me, when they got there, WWE wouldn't let them show really how talented they was back in OVW. They kind of watered them down. I did not like that at all.
Yeah, I completely get it. From what I hear at that time, when Johnny Laurinaitis took over creative and stuff, there was a lot of stuff that happened back and forth. There was a lot of ribbon that was going on, and they were young in the business. They were the guys coming up trying to make the roster and stuff. And once again, it was a dog eat dog world back then. Jim Cornette, a lot of people give him a lot of shit, but he knew his stuff. He knew his stuff. He knew what he was doing. He knew how to get you heat. He knew how to get you over. And he tells a story to this day. Doug Basham was his top guy. Went up to WWE, come back the next week, head shaved and a fucking get mask. And Jim Cornette tells you guys got to tell me this shit. You got to let me know this is coming. Like, it's stuff like that they just. You're exactly right.
I tell you, we love Jim Cornette. We loved him.
Yeah.
Ever since he stepped in the doors of OVW, and we love him still today.
Jim's a great guy. Absolutely, he's good.
A lot of people.
He takes a lot of crap. He takes a lot of crap. Yes, he does. Because the thing about Jimmy is that shit. He's gonna tell you it's shit, and people don't want to hear the truth. That's the bad part about this business, and I'm learning it more and more every day as an agent at OVW. People don't want to know the truth. They want you to tell them they're the best. They want you to tell you that their shit don't stink and it was the greatest thing you've ever seen. As soon as they say, tell me the truth, and you tell them the truth, they want to get butthurt and go get on the internet and talk about how OVW is stupid and they don't know what they're talking about, yada, yada, yada. Don't ask me for the truth if you don't want it.
Bingo. Yes.
You are exactly right, sir. You hit the nail right on the head, sir.
Yes, absolutely.
And see, that's the problem. Like, when nowadays young guys say, "Oh, did you like my match?" and then when you tell them, "Well, you should have done something here. You could have done something here. You could have tweaked something there." They'll be like, "Well, you don't know what you're talking about."
There's always an excuse for why they did what they did, and it's always trust me. I know 100%.
Now, you said you were friends with Jack Black.
Absolutely.
Mr. Black from Bowling Services. Actually, right now, me and my brother actually have another podcast where we actually review the OVW TV shows. And we started in '99, and we're seeing a lot of Mr. Black.
Yeah.
He's fantastic. Very agile for a big man, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. If you guys want to get him on your podcast, I can reach out to him and make that happen for you. That's not a problem at all.
We would love to have Mr. Black on for sure.
We would love that. We would love that.
Absolutely, I can do that for you. That's not a problem.
But when you were training, you said you were trained by different people there. Were you actually trained in OVW, or were you trained in another like?
I was trained in an OVW ring.
In an OVW ring.
Yeah, I was trained in an OVW ring, and I was trained by all consistently. Our trainers every week was Smooth Johnny Spade, Dynamite Derek. You guys may be familiar with this name. He goes by Fudd. Do you all know Fudd?
Yeah.
And Fudd, they were consistently our trainers every single week.
Awesome.
That's another guy that's definitely underrated as a talent, Johnny Spade.
Oh, Johnny Johnny Spade's a great guy. Great guy. He survived. He survived. He's been through a lot, and he's survived everything. He's overcome a lot to even be here with us today, and I'm super proud of that man.
When you when you had your first match and you were going through all these trainings,
Mm-hmm.
now you know, a lot of people say, you know, wrestling's fake. You know, unfortunately, a lot of people say that. Going through this training, was anything fake about wrestling to you at all?
Absolutely not. So I could show you right here on my leg. I got this nice scar right here on my leg. That I took a clothesline over the top rope in training, and I smacked my leg against the edge of the ring, which edge of the 2x4 split my leg wide open. I ended up with 8 stitches in my leg, and that was probably 6 months into training. And then about 9 months into training, I got dropped on my head. A guy picked me up for a body slam and didn't pick me up for a body slam, and I landed on my head, went completely numb, and was completely paralyzed for about 6 minutes. Thought my life was over. And they ended up rushing me to the hospital. And luckily for me, it was just a stinger. I started getting all my feeling back, and I was sore for a couple of days, but I ended up obviously being okay overall.
Yeah.
Nothing fake about it at all.
Yeah. A lot of people say that, but
and every time when someone says, "Well, you know it's fake, right?" Well, you tell the people that actually were in the ring that get hurt, and you tell them how it is.
Here's something I've always lived by. Okay, and this is something I'll go ahead and put it out there for you guys. Those who don't believe, there's nothing you could say that's going to change their mind.
Bingo.
Those that do believe, you're never going to have to convince them. So don't even waste your time. Don't even waste your time.
Anytime I always see, like, anytime I meet somebody that's not a wrestling fan, anytime I meet somebody that's not a wrestling fan or anything like that, the first thing they will always say, you know, it's fake, right?
I always try to sell them a ticket. Come on out and watch us. We'll show you how fake it is.
And then I'll tell them, well, if you want to call that fake, well, what do you like? Well, I like movies. So it's like, well, look at that. Or you like reality shows? Look at that. And every time I just make them mad, and that's about it.
See, I don't even waste my energy on them. I'll smile at them, thank them for their time, and I move on. It's not worth the energy to even waste your time on it.
That's the thing. Like, sometimes it's not even worth the time because they won't listen. They won't understand.
Life's too short. I
started watching wrestling. Yeah, go ahead, sir.
No, finish your story. Go ahead. I got time. Go ahead.
I've said, you know, I've been on the podcast before and everything, and I've said this right here. I started watching wrestling back in the late '60s, all the way through the '70s till now. Mm-hmm. And I, to me, the one thing to me that ruined wrestling, but I you know, not for me because I still love it, is you know the you know the kayfabe thing. You know, you know that's and you know that just really what brought it. And actually, I do blame the internet for it. But you know, it's just the way it is. You know, I tell people, you know, well, you know, it wasn't an art for the wrestlers coming there and beat each other to death. You know, it was how they performed in the ring that I enjoyed.
Right. And here's the thing, and the internet's a prime example of this. Here's a prime example of this. Anybody that tells you they know what's going on in a wrestling locker room that's not in a wrestling locker room is lying through their teeth. They could tell you whatever they want. They could say, "Oh, we know this has happened. So and so told me." No, you don't. You just think you know. So even at our level at OVW, we have workers at OVW that may tell you, "Oh, I know this." No, you don't. You don't know what's going to happen. Trust me. Yep. You don't know. You don't have to. I couldn't tell you what's going on in WWE right now. I couldn't tell you what Triple H is doing right now as far as booking goes. Couldn't do it. If I worked there, I couldn't tell you what was going on in booking.
Yeah, that's the problem. Like people like, well, Dave Meltzer's got this. Well, how does he know that? He don't know nothing.
He doesn't. He doesn't.
He ain't there.
Well, see, that's what goes like maybe he'll hear something from somebody. Well, that's what somebody told him.
And then they
Right.
go,
It's not actual what's going on.
I'm like, how? And I hate when they go by that, and then they go, well, they must have changed it before then. No, they didn't.
Yeah.
You just didn't know.
Yeah.
Now,
I can tell you. I can tell you right now. I can sit here right now and tell you. Oh, just last week, Tony Gunn slapped the shit out of Star Rider. You should have been there to see it. It was the most god awful thing ever. It was crazy. They went at it. They went out in the parking lot. They were throwing bricks through windows and everything. You turn around and tell that story to somebody else, and before you know it, it's on the internet. It's true and it happened. And I just sat here and made it up.
Yeah.
That's basically how that works.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you what I'm going to say this right here. Like I said, Rip Rogers, great guy, was always nice to me and my family, and I went. He had tickets, but I had to go to the gym where he worked out to pick them up. So I went there and I was talking to him, and I said, "Does a real chop hurt? Chopping across the chest, does it really hurt? Let me show you." He hit me. He knocked me down.
I bet.
He said, "Now,
Bet you won't ask that question
do you
again.
really think that's fake?" Yeah. He said, "Now, people can say fake or whatever they want. Was that fake to you? Did I hurt you?" I said, "Hell yeah, you hurt me."
I bet. Absolutely. Yeah, that's one question you don't want to ask. For sure. It hurts.
But he was just but he was the nicest guy. Man, he'd give us tickets every time that he would come to our area, and the kids, back then, they were just little back then, and they would go crazy.
With your first match, how'd that go?
Oh, great. I'm glad you asked. I'm glad you asked that. It was for the most part, obviously I'm still here, had the time of my life. But being green as ass not in the business. Of course, I thought I knew everything, didn't know my ass from the hole in the ground. My first match was actually against Jebediah Blackhawk. I'm sure you guys know Jebediah. And me being me, he picks me up and body slams me. He says, "Don't get up." And he climbs up the top rope. What's my dumbass do? My dumbass stands up. From the top rope, I hear, "You stupid motherfucker." Can I say that on y'all's podcast? I'm sorry. All right. So, and I'm like, oh crap. I done messed up. He gets down, comes over, grabs me, throws me off. As he's throwing me off, he says, "Don't duck." And I was like, oh God. He picked his boot up. I wore his boot across my face for a week. It was a lot of fun, but I love Jeb to death. Me and Jeb, we've known each other for 20 plus years. I love him like a brother. I'd do anything in the world for him. He taught me a lot about respect and a lot how to handle myself. And
so let me ask you this, sir. So he was dictating the match to you what was going to happen.
Basically, yes.
Listen.
Obviously,
you got it.
I didn't listen. I still don't listen. You can ask my wife that question. I don't listen very well.
It happens though, for sure. Now, you said that you wrestled primarily in the Kentucky and Indiana area, and
and throughout my career, obviously, I've traveled around. I've been to West Virginia. I've been to Florida. I've been to Tennessee. I've been to a lot of the surrounding states and stuff. I never made a career out of this. I've always had a shoot job. I've always worked. I've always loved wrestling. I did enough just to get by, just to be able to enjoy myself, and to call myself a wrestler, basically. But I never made a career at actually wrestling.
But you've always loved doing it and being able to
with a passion. And I can tell you, there's so much that goes into being a wrestler that's untalked about. There's so much sacrifice. My family, you guys want an idea for a podcast? You guys should try to look into doing a podcast with wrestlers' wives. They give up so much for us, for us to chase our dreams and to be able to live and do what we do. When I was at my heaviest, I mean, I was wrestling 6-7 nights a week. and you know, I'm going from town to town to town. I'm not coming home for 2 and 3 days at a time. I'm gone on the weekends. Almost every weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I was out wrestling, and that takes a toll on your family. You know, time doesn't stop just because you want to go play. Time doesn't stop because you have a job to go do somewhere else. I missed birthdays. I missed anniversaries. I missed, you know, time with family. I mean, there's so much sacrifice that goes into being a wrestler for that 1% chance that you're even going to make it to the top and be able to make a career out of this. That's what a lot of people don't talk about. There's, you know, 500,000 people competing for 13 spots. You do the math on that. It's pretty hard to make it in this business, no matter how good you are. It's just the nature of the beast. Now, you can make a decent living out of wrestling even if you don't make it to the big stage. But at the end of the day, unless you make it there, you're never going to feel accomplished. You're never going to feel like you've done anything. And you're never going to be able to live comfortably off of wrestling without making it to a decent level in this industry.
When it comes to wrestling, though, like you said, the sacrifice stuff. Now, during that time where you're putting in the most effort and traveling the most, you know, because I know sometimes with certain wrestling promotions, they may work a couple days a week, where, you know, you were working, you know, 5-6 times a week. And yeah, that's definitely a big sacrifice for family. Maybe you have kids, maybe you have other responsibilities. And that's rough to take care of, for sure.
Absolutely. And the responsibilities don't stop. I may be the champion at OVW, and the fans may love me, and I may be the greatest thing since peanut butter. When I come home, I still got to take out the trash. That doesn't change. I'm still a husband. I'm still got responsibility. I still got to cut my grass. So there is an aspect to wrestling that even as fans, even if fans of wrestlers, say like John Cena, fans of wrestlers like Randy Orton and those guys, that at the end of the day, when they go home, they still have responsibility and stuff to take care of at home. It's not easy sometimes to shut that switch off. It's not easy to not be like I've been Jesse Morris for so long. There's people that I've been friends with for 20 years that don't know my last name because I'm Jesse Morris. I'm J-Mo. That's what everybody calls me. Even some of the people I work with call me J-Mo. I mean, it becomes your identity. It becomes who you are, and it's hard to change somebody and who they are when they become something.
Absolutely,
it's hard to change. It's hard to be normal. It's hard to be normal. You'd rather use your character.
Absolutely. And now, don't get me wrong. I got to do some great things. I got to have a lot of fun. Like I've got to wrestle with Colt Cabana. I've got to wrestle with Rob Conway. I've got to wrestle with Nick Dinsmore. I've got to wrestle with a lot of people. I've got to wrestle with Hacksaw Jim Duggan, for crying out loud. Like I've got to do a lot of cool things in this business. I've got to work directly with, now in this case as an agent, with Mick Foley and Mickey James, and obviously Al Snow, one of the greatest minds to ever be a part of this stuff. Like I've learned more in the last 5 years than I did the first 20 years of this business, because the man it's just like he could do it in his sleep. He makes stuff seem so easy, and so, like you sit there and you struggle with an ideal and you can't figure out how to get there, and he just pops it off like it's nothing, like it's like he just thought about it 2 weeks ago before you even ask him. It's so amazing, the mind that he has for the business.
Now, when it came to your, are you currently still wrestling at all, or are you just producing?
So I'll be glad to tell you the story. So it was actually a full circle for me, and I'm actually extremely grateful for Al Snow. I know I've just put him over greatly, but I am extremely grateful for Al Snow. So I developed a condition 7 years ago called primary sclerosing cholangitis. And what that is, it's inflammation in my bile ducts that end up shutting my liver down. I developed cirrhosis of the liver in 2021, and I was dying. It literally got to the point the last 2 years before my transplant, I was dying. The doctors told me that the only cure that was going to cure me was a transplant. I had to have a liver transplant. In 2021, I went to Al. You know, at that time I was still wrestling when I got this news. I was, you know, still doing my thing. And I went to Al and I said, Al, I love this business. I love it with a passion. I want this more than anything. But my body's not going to let me keep doing this. I'm dying. Like, this is what they told me. My liver's shutting down. You wouldn't even recognize me now. By the grace of God, I'm here. Every day is a great day, guys. Don't ever forget that. My motto is make today better than yesterday, and I live by it every single day, and I'm grateful to be here. But I went to Al, and I was like, Al, I'm dying. Like, there's no other way to put this. This is what's going on. I have to have a liver transplant. At that time, I didn't think I was going to get one. You get a transplant list, and people live on it for years and never make it to the top of the list, and they end up dying before they get the transplant. I had come to the realization that I was going to die. And I don't want ever to have anybody actually live that way. It's not a great way to live. It's not a great feeling, but that's where I was. And Al, without a doubt, open-armedly said, I got you. Whatever it takes, we want you to be a part of this. We want you here. He brought me in, started teaching me things, started teaching me that business, the locker, the office side of things when it comes to the business, taught me how to be an agent. He still to this day is teaching me. I still learn every day. I've done this for so long, I could do it in my sleep, but there's still things that even to this day that I still, when he explains it to me, it's like, oh my gosh, you're exactly right. But by the grace of God, Al said, we want you to be here. We want you to be a part of this. And that's actually how I became an agent of OVW, was because of that. July 23rd of July, let's go back a little bit. July 12th of last year, I finally got the call that they were going to list me for the liver transplant. The thing about the United States, it's unfortunate, but our healthcare system controls everything. And even though they knew 7 years ago the only thing that was going to cure me was a liver transplant, I couldn't qualify for a liver transplant unless I was dying. That's the unfortunate truth. And I had to get sick enough. So basically, I just had to watch myself deteriorate and hope and pray to God that I didn't deteriorate too much. And so by the grace of God, July 12th of last year, I got the call they were going to list me on the transplant, and within 12 days, they found me a liver. 12 days later, I got my transplant on July 23rd of last year. Just celebrated my 1-year liver transplant. I feel better than I ever had. I feel like the 20-year-old version of myself, and I'm grateful for every day. But that's actually how I became an agent in OVW, was because of what happened with me and having to step back and having to fight for my life. And I still wanted to be a part of it, and Al graciously let me do so.
Thank you so much for that story.
Yes.
And
that's
awesome that you were able to get
so glad you shared with us.
Yes. When it comes to coming from a wrestler to a producer, is there a lot of changes that comes in place?
There's a lot of changes. There's a lot of changes. But from a worker's perspective, being a worker, I know what they're going through. I know what they're feeling. So it's easier to relate to them because I've been there. I know what it's like. For me, the biggest change for me was, as a wrestler, I knew my place. I knew my place. I knew I was good. I knew what I was good at. I knew what I wasn't good at. It was easy to get in there and do my thing and do it the best I could and make what I could out of what I was doing. Well, as an agent, I've got to teach somebody else how to do that. So that's the biggest change. Instead of being able to just do it, I have to relay that to them to do it, and then hopefully anticipate and expect that they are able to do what I'm seeing and what I'm envisioning, as opposed to being able to just go out there and do it myself. Because I can lead you to water all day long, but I can't make you drink it.
That's right.
And is that what entails as an agent? Is that what your requirements are to be an agent?
Absolutely. Your requirements is to make sure that you're able to get the most out of the wrestler. Make sure they're living up to their potential. Make sure they're able to, get their characters over. Make sure they're able to do the things that they're needing to do. They've earned whatever spot that they have. We need to make sure they're doing their end of the bargain to keep up with
that. Now, with some people, I'm pretty sure that's rough to try to transform that into television or into a show, like you said, leading them to the water, but you can't make them drink it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you're going through this, are you watching their matches? Are you giving them pointers on what they could do, what they shouldn't do? Now, granted, how they take it is something else, but does that also is that also in the umbrella of being an agent for a wrestling promotion?
Absolutely. As an agent, our job is to make sure our show is the best it could possibly be for our fans. We want the best outcome for our fans. We want the best environment. We want the best the matches. We want the whole experience, the whole fan experience to be exactly, what we would expect, especially from OVW standpoint. We have a long legacy of putting on a quality product, and we want to make sure it stays that way. And a lot of times, it's not so much of trying to get it out of them. It's just making sure they know how to go about doing it. Make sure they know the direction that we're trying to go. Make sure they know the things they need to do to be safe. We don't. We at the end of the day, we don't want anybody to go out there and kill themselves. We don't want anybody to go out there, and break their neck. This is a rough sport. It is rough. It is very rough on the body, and you have to make sure you're taking care of yourself and doing the right things to make sure that you don't have any unnecessary injuries. And so that's our job, to make sure they're on the guidelines. They're doing exactly what we need them to do to be able to portray the stories that we're trying to tell.
Absolutely.
So really, in a way, it's more like, when you're in the ring with somebody, they have to trust you and you have to trust them.
Absolutely. Same concept. They have to trust that what I'm telling them. Exactly.
Yeah.
And of course, great. you are a 20-year vet in wrestling. They should listen to somebody like you, right?
I mean, it's not a matter of should. I mean, this business is all about respect. You have to earn respect to get respect, and there is an aspect to that yes, they should, but at the end of the day, that what people should do and what people do are different sometimes. Yeah. So it's no different than anything else you do in life. Whenever you're in a situation of power, you have to earn your respect. You have to, they have to know that you've got their best interest. They have to know that you got their back just as well as they got yours. It's a team effort. No one person's bigger than the show. Nobody. And as long as everybody's working to that core concept, then everything should be just fine.
Have you also done some TV production with OVW?
Absolutely. That's kind of what we do as agents. We're agents. We're producers. We're calling the times. We're cutting the commercial breaks. We're bringing us back from commercial. We're doing all those things as the agents. Now we do have some guys that are involved in production, and that's all they do is production, as far as working the machines and working the cameras and working the pods in the back. But as agents, we're the ones on the headsets calling the action, counting us down. That's the kind of stuff that we do.
Can that be pretty stressful? Maybe somebody goes over time or commercial breaks.
I would much rather be in the ring wrestling. Trust me, because the thing is, when it gets messed up and there's something wrong or the time's off, guess who gets the shit for it? It isn't the wrestlers. Nope. Who agented that shit? If I could tell you how many times I've heard that.
Yeah, because that's another thing. You always got to do the time cues. You got to get the cues in. Hey, you got 9 minutes for this match. You got to get out in 9 minutes.
That's right.
You got to.
Guys, you got 30 seconds left. Wrap this shit up. Take this shit home. Let's go. Come on.
Come on, you got time.
Yeah, absolutely. I was thinking. I was like, because like. Go ahead, Pops. What were you gonna
say? Gimmicks. I don't know how anybody else feels about this, what I'm about to say, but it comes to my heart now. I really don't like the way WWE treated the OVW guys. I really didn't like it. You bring in a guy like Nick Dingsmore, talented, knows what to do inside the ring, and what they gave him a gimmick of Eugene, wouldn't let him use his wrestling ability. I think that was a crying shame.
I could see why you would think that. Nick Dingsmore is definitely He was definitely one of the
They
best
ruined
pure
his career.
wrestlers ever.
Absolutely.
They ruined his career in WWE before he even got started.
Unfortunately. Definitely being that's what I was thinking. Being an agent would be and producer with those time cues would be definitely more stressful. But do you enjoy what you're doing?
Oh, absolutely, 1000%. When you get wrestling in your blood, it's my I tell my wife all the time, it's my addiction. It's what I do. I don't drink. I don't do drugs. I don't do anything. But I love wrestling. It's my drug, and there's no other feeling like it. And so now, don't get me wrong. There is an aspect of it that makes me miss it because as a worker, you want to be in the ring. There's no other feeling like than staying behind that curtain when your music hits and then hitting that curtain and hearing the crowd either explode or get mad because they don't like it. There's no other feeling like it, and it gives me that desire to want to do it even more. But absolutely, 1000%, I enjoy what I do. I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you knew how to work the crowd, didn't you? You knew how to work that crowd that was there that night, right? You knew how to work them.
Absolutely.
That's very commendable. That is so commendable.
One thing that I always tried to pride myself on. One thing that I always prided myself on is I never once in 20 years called somebody out of their name. I never had to look at a fan and tell them they were stupid. I never had to look at a fan and tell them they were ugly. I put the heat on myself and I drew heat like crazy, and I never had to sing about it. It drives me crazy when somebody goes out and tries to get cheap heat, call somebody ugly or call somebody fat. You can do that to anybody. You can do that on the street. You ain't got to do that in here. You ain't got that fan's paying their money to come see you wrestle. If you hurt their feelings and they don't come back, guess what? You didn't do your damn job.
That's right.
And in 20 years, I never did. I never singled out a fan.
Ability. That's very complimentary. You use your own ability to get the heat on you. You didn't have to run in the crowd and call them names. You got the heat on you by your ability to do it.
Exactly. Now I would run down the town or something like that. All you people here suck. Every single one of you. Not one of you are big enough to get in here with me. I would say stuff like that, but I never once singled a fan out. Never once.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, you have to do that. You have to. To me, you have to let them know hey, I'm not here to be a nice guy to you people. I'm not here to be a nice guy.
Every time I would come out to the ring as a heel. Every time I would come out to the ring as heel, I would grab a microphone, and I had an opening saying that I would do. And basically it was, ladies and gentlemen, the man you all came to see, get up on your feet, weighing in at astounding 284 pounds, Jesse Morris. That's all I had to say. And then they would go nuts because they didn't come to see me. And then I'd get in the ring and I'd do something, and I had the baby get over me, and I'd jump out, and they'd fucking go nuts. And I'd get back in there, and I'd do something dirty, and I'd get them down, and I'd stand up, and I'm like, who sucks now? And they would go absolutely nuts and tell me I suck, and then I'd get on them, and then it was easy heat.
Did you enjoy?
You did it yourself, man. You got the heat yourself, and you know how to do it.
Yeah,
very commendable.
Did you do? I'm assuming that you were both babyface and heel at some points in your career.
Absolutely.
Which one did
as a worker? As a worker, you should be able to do both. You shouldn't. It's frustrating when somebody says, "Well, I'm a baby," or "No, you're a worker. Get out there and work." If I go, it doesn't matter to me if I'm the biggest baby or the biggest loved wrestler at OVW. If I go to West Virginia where they don't know me and I'm wrestling against the promoter's son who gets over and the crowd loves him, I'm gonna be the heel. They're not gonna get behind me. It'd be stupid to even try. And there's been times where I've actually went out anticipating to do one thing and ended up having to do another because the crowd went the other way. Sometimes you just have to go out there and work.
Yeah, work that crowd for sure. Yeah.
But to answer your question, though, it's 10 times easier to be a heel than a baby. Like, it's so easy to get somebody to hate you. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's tricks to getting them to like you, too. But it's so much easier being a heel. So as a worker, I prefer to be a heel because it's easier. But as far as doing either one, I can do either one.
There you go.
That's what.
Well, it's really, you're the type of guy and like so many others are, you know how to do the reverse. You could change it at any time or any moment that you step into town you don't know, and
Absolutely.
see what's going to happen with the guy you're going to wrestle.
Exactly. I'm absolutely grateful for the situation I was in. I'm so grateful to be able to learn and watch and be around so many great people in this business. Like I said, being friends with Jack made so many connections for me. I'll be honest with you, I didn't have to work for my connections. I didn't. It was because of who I knew. And a lot of this business is that way. I just happened to get extremely lucky because he made a promise to my dad before my dad died that he would always take care of me, and he kept his word, and he took care of me, and he brought me into his world, and he introduced me to people that I would have never met in my entire life if it wasn't for him. I got to hang out with, like I said, all the guys that are the guys who are the business, like all the guys that if you think of today, or there wouldn't be a WWE without them. I got to hang out with all those guys before they became who they were, and I would have never got to do that. So yes, I am good at what I do, but it's not to my own credit. It's because I've got the experience of learning from these guys and watching these guys do it. That's like I was telling you earlier, I credit so much to learning how to be a heel from Jason or from Apollo, because that's just the way it is. I was so fortunate to be around such good people over the years. I didn't have a choice but to learn how to do it. So, and back then, if I didn't do it, I got the crap beat out of me. So I picked it up pretty quick. It's funny because it was probably about 2012, 2013. I was wrestling at this little town, and a guy ended up going over on me. But after the match, he's like, "Man, that was so freaking great. You were selling like $1 million. But I gotta ask you, when I punched you like that, why'd you end up flipping so much like that? I've never seen somebody. You look like a fish out of water." I said, "Well, you see, back in my day, you took a punch, and when you took a punch, you really took a punch. And I learned early on, I was only taking one. So when I took that punch, I sold it like they killed me, because more likely they did kill me on the first one. So I didn't have to take the second one."
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So,
You see, we know people that say we tell them well we knew John Cena, we knew Batista and the rest of these guys before that they ever hit WWE. Many people say, well, he just we all know that John Cena wasn't John Cena in OVW. He was the prototype.
yeah, he was.
Batista was Leviathan.
Yep.
Yep.
So
we got to watch a lot of these guys before they went there.
Look at
Dave's a good guy too,
and everything like that. We've seen them before they hit WWE.
That's what I was saying earlier. OVW's got so many great years. Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
Now, with being trained in OVW and stuff, did you were you ever around Danny Davis?
I was, absolutely.
How was Danny?
I worked a lot of the shows, like the homecoming shows. Do you guys remember the homecoming shows?
Yes.
I loved them. They were so much fun to work. Homecoming 6, I actually tagged with Nick Dinsmore. Speaking of Nick, against a couple of his students. It was me and Nick versus a couple of the students, and almost all of those shows were great because what they did is the students would sell tickets, so it was always a huge show. We'd always have 300 people inside that building for these shows, and they were fans of the kids. So they weren't your traditional wrestling fans that only got behind certain things. They got behind everything all night long. It was so much fun to work those shows. I had more fun working those homecoming shows probably than anything I've ever done at OVW. It was some of the best times.
Yeah. We actually have some of the homecomings on DVD.
Yes, we do.
That we bought at some of the.
We really enjoyed them.
Homecoming 2 and Homecoming 6 I won. So if you got them, check them out. Let me know what you think.
I will make sure I check them out for sure.
You better know that.
When it comes to You said you enjoy what you're doing now. We also, I believe my brother said that you were just recently at SummerSlam.
Yep.
I was. We did go to SummerSlam this weekend.
How was SummerSlam?
It was great. It was actually done really well. I have a problem. The bad thing about being a wrestler, for me, is I have a problem critiquing stuff. Even when I'm watching, I've always struggled with that. But a good friend of mine, Aaron Grider, who's no sure if y'all familiar with Mr. Grider or not. Do y'all know Aaron?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, the one that Freya the Slayer put through the wedding cake.
Yeah.
He's actually a really good friend of mine, but he's a huge wrestling fan. And hanging out with him and getting to do the things I've gotten to do with him, he's gotten that passion and that joy for me back again as being the fan aspect of things. And so I got to experience WrestleMania with him this year. Back last year, how that all came about. Back last year, when I was sick before my transplant, he told me if I get my transplant and everything goes great, I'm going to take you to SummerSlam next year. And he kept his word. He took me to SummerSlam this year, or to WrestleMania, sorry, to WrestleMania this year. And we had the time of our lives. It was so much fun. So he's got me back into that fan aspect of things. And I had an absolute blast at SummerSlam. It was so great. We had tickets like in like section 500 or something. But then when we got down there, we're like, for shits and giggles, let's just go look, see if they have anything available. And they had actually dropped tickets. So we ended up getting tickets in section 113, 5 rows off the field for $50 a piece. So we actually went ahead and bought those and just sold our other ones back to Ticketmaster. And so we had a great time. It was a lot of fun. Roman coming back was amazing to see live. That was a lot of fun to be a part of. So yeah, it was a great time.
And that's what a lot of wrestlers or former wrestlers say. Like they go, every time when I try to watch wrestling, I always do the critique. And always try to be like, they always do that. Like every wrestler or former wrestler, like they don't act like fans anymore. They're like, well, but then they get back into it and they act like fans again, and it's awesome.
Absolutely. I've been enjoying it. It's been a lot of fun to be able to enjoy wrestling again. And honestly, guys. I know, as from the fan perspective, you guys miss OVW. You want us back, and trust me, we want to be back just as much as everyone else. But I'm telling you, it's been nice having a little bit of a break. It's been nice not having that weekly grind that we go through. There's so much that goes into putting on our show, guys. Y'all don't even realize we have. Booking meetings at Sunday nights at 11 o'clock at night that sometimes don't end until 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. And I've got to be at work at 6 a.m. And then, of course, TV day. It's all day long. We're getting there, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and we're there till 11, 12 o'clock at night just putting on our show. There's so much that goes on behind the scenes to give you guys the experience that you get as fans. So it's been kind of nice not having that weekly grind. I'm not going to lie. I miss it. I'm ready for us to start back up, but it's been nice having that break, and it's allowed me to that extra freedom to be a fan for a little bit. It's been a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Always nice to cut back, maybe watch something different, look at a different show and stuff. Absolutely.
Absolutely, because like when we are grinding and we are doing stuff every day, putting in our work, trying to give you guys the best show ever. When somebody says, "Hey, let's go watch wrestling," the last thing I want to do is go watch wrestling.
Yeah. Especially if you're doing it all the time.
Exactly.
Then you're like, you know what? I need a break. Like
I was telling you earlier, guys, I didn't grow up wanting to be a wrestler, so.
We know OVW is going to be having an event, Fight Night in Pikeville. I know that's
absolutely. We're super excited. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have a great time. We're going to have Kevin Nash there. We're going to have Victoria there. We're going to have the Boogeyman there. Who don't like the Boogeyman? I'm scared to death of that man. I'm scared to death of him.
And this is OVW's very first pay-per-view also.
Well, very first pay-per-view away from OVW. It's away from the Danny Davis Arena. Absolutely. We are super excited to be able to put this on. There's been a lot of work that's went in behind the scenes, making sure everything's right, making sure we got the right, things in place so we can get all this down pat so we can make it happen. Of course, Al making his phone calls. Obviously, we're getting Kevin Nash in. We're super excited about it. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're hoping to put on a great show for all the fans.
And it's a big coup to get WWE Hall of Famer Kevin Nash. You're getting Victoria. You're getting the Boogeyman. And
it's not easy.
And also, you're going to get some great wrestling action also.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely. I'm excited. I'm excited about that, how this is all playing out, and to see where we go with this whole takeovers and stuff. Like, it's been crazy, man. These guys have been running rapid. It's time that we get OVW back.
And we're definitely looking forward to that show.
Yes, in Pikeville. Definitely get your tickets.
Exactly.
You guys want to check it out for sure.
OVWTix.com, guys. Get them. Please get them. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Is there anything, because we want to close it up here. We don't want to take too much of your time. Is there anything that you'd like to promote besides the OVW Fight Night?
Honestly, just OVW in general. Obviously, we're still on TV every week, even though we haven't been able to produce our weekly shows. We're still doing Overdrive. We're still having our weekly shows. So make sure you're checking them out, keeping up with everything that's going on in the upcoming events. Of course, we got some big shows coming up. We're going to be at Kentucky State Fair in a couple of weeks. We're going to be there both Friday night and Saturday night, the 23rd and the 24th. Going to be a lot of fun. We actually have 2 shows on the 24th, one in the afternoon and one in the evening. So it's going to be a lot of fun. We've got a lot of shows coming up around the area. We're going to be in Cincinnati coming up. We've got some shows that are not around the area. We're going to, on the 10th, we're going to be in Pennsylvania. So we've got a lot of stuff happening. So make sure you're checking out the social medias. Make sure you're checking out the website. Check out, Facebook, Instagram. Check us out. Make sure you're following along. That way you don't miss out on any of the action.
And this is the thing. I'm really proud of what OVW is accomplishing at this time.
Thank you.
Y'all are doing great. And we always support OVW. Been OVW fans since 1998. So, very long time.
And this not just something we say, guys. It really isn't. We would not be able to do what we do without you guys. Not a single one of you guys, if it wasn't for you, would we be able to do what we do. At the end of the day, we're a bunch of guys putting on tights, going around playing with each other. Like, we would not be able to do what we do without you guys. And we're very appreciative. We're very grateful that you guys support us the way you do. The OVW Nation, the OVW family, that's what you guys are. OVW family has been so good to us over the years. And trust me, it has broken our hearts to have to be able to take this time off. But we want the best fan experience that we can get. And we don't want that to ever be in jeopardy. We don't ever want one fan walking away saying, I can't believe I went to that place. Never did we want that. We want the best fan experience. So we had to do what we had to do to take the action to get it fixed. We're going to have that AC up and running. When we do, the first week back is going to be fan appreciation. Everybody's going to be getting in for free. So make sure you guys come out. If you're there that night, make sure you get my attention. Say hi to me. I'd love to meet you guys in person. It'd be my honor to have you guys there. So make sure you're there when we start back up.
Absolutely, guys. Support OVW in any way possible. Instagram, Facebook, any kind of social media. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. I know they have a YouTube channel as well.
That's correct. OVWTix.com. You can get your tickets to all of our shows that are coming up for the summer tour. You can get any of the tickets. OVWTix.com.
Absolutely, and we want to thank you for doing this and being on our podcast. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, sir. You guys have a good one.
Too.